not helping.
So
Sarah.
waking up at 5 a.m. every summer, rolling off a sleeping pad, getting dressed, biking with your best friends from state to state across the country, eating good food and meeting awesome people on the way. Like, what could be better than that? So what organization does that? Well, I'm going to talk about Bike and Build today. And so Bike and Build is a national nonprofit, and it empowers young adults ages 18 to 28 to bike from East Coast to West Coast. And there's 8 routes. And so from the 2014 Rider's Manual is a quote. It says, through service-oriented cycling trips, Bike and Build benefits affordable housing and empowers young adults for a lifetime of service and civic engagement. And that's exactly what it is from my experience. And so I was part of the 2014 South Carolina to Santa Cruz route. And so we started in Charleston in late May, and we finished in Santa Cruz in early August, and we spent 82 days on the road with 33 best friends. None of us knew each other beforehand, but we all became super close in the end. And so the history of Bike and Build, it was started by Mark Bush in 2002. And so in 2003, it was the first routes. So there was Central, and then there was Northern US. And so it's just started with 2 routes. And so it was 60 people, and they just made it happen. And then in the next, what was it, 2009, there was 8 routes total, and they haven't added since then. But so they're keeping it at 8 routes, and then they've added a couple shorter ones for people who don't have the time, capacity, and people that just don't have the money to fundraise the $4,500 for the cross-country routes. And so there's a long history of it, and then there's multiple days that we have. There's like biking days, and there's building days, and then there's days off. And then I'm just going to talk about the impact that it has on people's lives across the country. And so I already mentioned that 8 routes go across the country, and then it goes through 47 total states in the United States. It misses out on Alaska, obviously, and Hawaii, and Delaware, because who wants to ride through Delaware? And then, so total, there's over 30,000 miles of biking between the 8 routes together, and there's over $1 million of fundraising every single year that comes from Bike and Build that goes to affordable housing. So everything about Bike and Build is meant to benefit affordable housing. So groups like Habitat for Humanity and other groups across the country like that. And it's been empowered by young adults, like I said, since 2003, and it's been going ever since. And so a day in the life of Bike and Build, what it looks like on riding days. My route had 61 riding days, and you average like 70 miles a day, but you get up at like 5 a.m., have your bags ready in the trailer by 5:30, and you sit around like a big group, all dressed in spandex like typical cyclists. And then depending on where you're at, like churches hosted us normally, and so it would be like grits in the South, or oatmeal in the Midwest, or pancakes once you start getting to the West and stuff like that. It was so cool, and Southern hospitality is incredibly true. The tastiest food ever, and nicest people. And so basically, yeah, Texas. So you got in like this big circle in the morning. We had this route meeting, and so we would just discuss directions for the day. We would just discuss anything that we would need to know to get from point A to point B in the towns. And so, yeah, once you get to your host, we would just settle in, take showers, and then have dinner that would normally be provided to us by the grace of just the locals in the churches that we were staying at. And so that's pretty much a riding day. It's really simple, and it just repeats itself over and over, but the landscape changes, and so does your mood some days. Most are great, some kind of suck, like Texas, but... And then another kind of days is building days. And so that, we wouldn't bike at all. We would wake up still really early to get to the Habitat for Humanity site on time. And so we'd still wake up around 5:30 a.m., have breakfast as a group, and we'd get shuttled to a Habitat for Humanity site location. So our first one was in Charleston. We started with 2 build days before we even biked at all, which was really cool because we all got to get to know each other. We did roofing together and framing, and it was a blast. And so, you know, between South Carolina and Santa Cruz, we did 17 total build days. And so that was between Charleston, Rome, Georgia, Oklahoma City. We spent a straight week in Colorado Springs, which was amazing. And so the other kind of days is days off. And so we only had 4 of those over the summer, but you got to do whatever you wanted. You could sleep in, which is like a super rare commodity in Bike and Build, because that just never happens. You're always up at 5 or 5:30 every day. And some people chose to just like chill, go to restaurants or amusement parks or hike mountains. I know in Colorado Springs, I was with a small group, and we did Pikes Peak, and then we went back down, and then there was a fireworks show because it was 4th of July, so it was a free fireworks show in an amphitheater with orchestra going on, and it was just like so surreal. And that's pretty much a day off in Bike and Build. And so now that we've talked about like a days, what it looks like, we're going to talk about like the national impact that it really gives to the community. And so it impacts riders in the community. I'm just going to talk about riders first. So it impacted me personally just by giving me a really philanthropic view on life and volunteering more in Lawrence, Kansas, where I live and go to college. So most Saturdays I volunteer at least half a day with Habitat for Humanity just because I became so close and acquainted with everyone on site. And another way that you're impacted is you become like a weird intimacy with your bicycle because you're on it all day long for all summer. And so this is my bike. It's not as new and it has a lot of miles since I got it brand new last year, but yeah, it's my baby and I love it. And so it's kind of freaky, but and then, so a quote from my really good friend Joel Hardcastle, he was quoted in the Rider's Manual for 2014, but Joel said, "This was hands down the most incredible thing I've ever done. Can't wait to see what next year brings for Bike and Build." And it's cool because I actually talked a friend into doing it in 2015. I've been stalking him on the internet ever since and texting him even today. And then so national impact also impacts the community side of things. And the homeowners have all been so grateful. They've been so habitable just to have us bike and builders come through in their community and volunteering, like to build their house. They're trusting people from 18 to 28 to come in with hammers and nails with little experience to like put up frames in their wall with guidance from foremen on site. And so it's just really special to get that personal connection, especially after a week in Colorado Springs. It was really amazing to get to know the family and the children that are going to live there in the future. And so they're also impacted by receiving a better home and getting out of sketchy neighborhoods and rental situations. They can produce a more happy family, a safer family, and a safer neighborhood. And then, so it just spreads good feelings and good vibes kind of all across the nation where we cycled through. And that's just what makes Bike and Build really special. And so to sum everything up, the definition of Bike and Build is just, it's meant to empower young adults and to give benefits for affordable housing. There's lots of different kinds of days, and we impact communities all over the U.S. And so in conclusion, Bike and Build not only changes the lives of the young adults that are clad in spandex across the U.S., but it changes the lives of all the people we meet, whether it's people on a Habitat site or whether it's in a diner in a small town of 100 people in the United States. So that's a little thing about Bike and Build. So thanks.